Hey everybody, welcome to KCBC. Again, thank you so much for your support. You might have noticed recently that we were able to monetize. I appreciate the subscribers. All that stuff helps us keep going, helps us with the studio hours and equipment and editing and all that stuff. So thank you guys so much. Today I've got a very special guest on the show, Sid Balakrishnan of Beastified Gym. Sid, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's definitely an introduction because my last name is so long. It happens every time we're on a podcast. It's like, but you said it absolutely perfectly. So
appreciate that, man. Yeah, I'm pretty particular about that stuff. You know, my name, I'm particular about my name. Like people call me Mike and I check them. I'm like, hey, it's Michael, you know, and I've got a whole story with that. And we've talked about that on the podcast before, but you know, names matter. And, you know, if I can't say somebody's last name, that's my problem, man. Like I need to learn how to say somebody's name appropriately, you know?
No, absolutely. So, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I tend to sometimes get comfortable. It's not a sign of disrespect. Sometimes when you get really comfortable with the conversation, you kind of tend to go with the shorter version. It's just like, hey, Mike, blah, 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 blah. It just flows with it. It's like, okay, I understand now, Michael.
Right.
We got the fire alarm going.
We'll let the fire alarm stop. All right, so we're back on after the fire alarm that just went off. Sid, can you tell the audience about what you do and your business and your experience?
Yeah, like Michael just said, my full name is Sidharth Balakrishnan, Sid for short, and I don't mind you calling me Sid. I actually appreciate that. I'm an immigrant who came to this country, joined the military, and then I have my master's in psychology, and although I never worked in the field, but now I'm just an entrepreneur that's just experiencing it firsthand on how to make it and make the American dream happen. So that's basically me in a nutshell.
I love it, man. Many firsts on this show right now with you coming on. I so appreciate, you know, just getting to know you, and I tell everybody how I met my guests usually, but I think I found the Sweat Vault somehow. There was a open house that was happening, and then I noticed that Corey and you are married and you're both business owners, and then as I've started to get to know you guys, just coming from California, me and my wife came from California, and it's like, I knew this was an interview that had to happen, and when I met Dre from Better Together, he had just met with you. Like, he's like, oh yeah, I just got out of a meeting with Sid, and I was like, I want to have him on the show, man. Can you introduce me? You know, and he was like, oh yeah, Sid's a great guy and all this. And so I've been thinking about this one since like around Thanksgiving when I met Dre. You know? So
man,
I was like, I knew the connection was there. So man, I know that Beastified, it's not your first business. So maybe you could kind of tell us about your experience. You know, you talked about building the American dream. Like, what was your first experience with building business and becoming an entrepreneur?
It came about because I got out of the military, and the military was just so structured. I kind of put it this way. Military is kind of like a train that has a destination. You kind of get on it, and they tell you what to do. You just got to follow the rules, and you just got chain of command helping you out and just kind of going.
Right.
And when I got out of the military, it was almost the same concept, but you're at Penn Station. You have 30 different options. And you're like, whoa, this is wild. What do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. So kind of thinking about it, you know, you got different sides. My friends are doing this. My parents want me to do this. I want to do this. And you're just kind of confused. So you first get into doing a lot of things that you want to kind of experiencing. What is it that you like the most? So I went with I believed, this is just my opinion, the safest route, which is education. So I went to college. Right away, I had the GI Bill benefit from the military. They took care of me really well. Got my master's in, we got the fire alarm again. I guess I'll pick up. Nope, yeah. It's off.
All right. Brother, go ahead.
So I decided to go to college.
So you went to Education.
Yeah, so I went education. It was a safer route at the time too. To be honest with you, the military kind of take care of you. GI Bill, they end up paying for your housing as well. In California, it's kind of expensive. So I was like, you know what? This is the safest route. They'll pay for my housing. I'll get an education. I'll be able to work. So I got my master's. I got 2 master's degree in clinical psychology. And in California, once you're done with your master's degree, you have to do 2 to 3 years of internship. I was not happy about that, and but I gave it a go, and soon I realized it wasn't for me. I did it more for my self-awareness from all the trauma that I faced in the military than it was for actual job. It was. I mean, when it comes to the education field, you got options. I could have been a nurse. I could have been a physical therapist, which is what I really wanted to be, but the waiting in school, I felt like I was a little bit older than the younger. I got out of the military. I was in my mid-20s, and I was like, oh, I'm already behind. I need to get into a program now. And psychology was available. And I was like, maybe it'll help me. And it did help me personally as far as self-awareness stuff goes. As far as self-healing, it helped me a lot. But then I realized, wow, like this is not happening. It's very much dangerous because I come home every day. Somebody will come home. So and so beat me. So and so yelled at me. So and so
in the psychology field. Yeah, brother. Yeah.
And then I couldn't help it but think like 3 years ago, I could have strapped up and just, done something. I could do something about it. And that's what was like constantly when I'm laying in bed, I'm constantly planning a route to basically make things right my way.
Right.
And that wasn't the right thought process I should be having on a daily basis, trying to defend people. And when it's not my job to, or not legal to.
Right. Absolutely, man. No, as a protector too. I mean, that's why my mom named me Michael. She named me after the Archangel Michael. And I have absolutely grown into that persona, as a brother of younger sisters and now a dad of daughters. And I'm resonating with what you're saying, man, about that.
Yeah. So to continue on the topic.
Yeah.
So the psychology and the mental aspect was my education. So I felt like I have that taken care of. The only other thing that I know that helped me a lot in life is the physical aspect. I noticed that when I was medically retired from the military, I noticed going into the gym, having a routine just absolutely saved me. And so I was like, you know what? I think if I can combine the knowledge that I have as a psychologist and put it in with physical fitness, I feel like I'm going to be happy. So that's where the first business started, which is the personal training business. I was working for a couple of companies, which is where I met Corey, my wife. She was yoga instructor for one of their company, True Fusions. And then I was the personal training manager. And then I'm noticing 60% of my paycheck going to them. And,
right.
And I'm kind of keeping the 40%. And I was like, even though I was happy, I was always, I had it in the back of my mind, like, I got to find a way to make this 100% me.
Yeah.
So then I fell into this opportunity where a friend had moved on to better. So basically, he owned a soft wash company and a roofing company, and he wanted to move on. He wanted to get into cell cloning and VecPro is the company that he works for, and which is his company. They're extremely successful now. So he was like, hey, man, I have this business. I had a nice little farmhouse up in Fallbrook, California. So I had a lot of space. So he was like, is there any way I can park my truck there? So I was like, okay, no problem at all. So he parked his truck there. It was a really good looking. It was a nice setup. He had everything in his truck bed just set up. Everything, you didn't have to do anything. Everything was in the truck.
Like power washing and stuff.
Power wash everything.
Okay,
soft
I'm
washing.
visualizing a rig like that. Yeah,
it's called soft washing. It's a little bit different. You lay down chemicals on your roof and you just leave, and
okay.
Kind of cleans. In California, it doesn't rain much, so it's a tough business to get into because you got to emulate rain afterwards.
Right.
But I was like, hey man, like, tell me a little bit about this business. And he kind of gave me a little bit of the lowdown, and I was like, you know what? Let me buy it. And so I bought it, and that's when we started. And I was like, okay, this is pretty good. This is something that I want, not just me, everybody to kind of think about. So I just mentioned that, hey, I was earning 40%. I want the other 60%. There is a price with that. 40%, yes, you got a set hour. You get to come home to your family. You got to do all of that. You want the rest of the 60%, you're going to have to give 24/7 into it. And that's something that I learned. Okay. At first, I was like, whoa. I am working. I'm coming home covered in bleach. So that's something to think about. And
your brain never shuts off either.
No, it doesn't.
And that's the other part, where even if you're not doing the work, you're still working.
Yeah, because like the psychology dreams that I had of just going there and trying to make things right. End of the day, this is not mine to do, but now it's my business. Yes, it is my responsibility to constantly think about how to improve.
Yeah.
So you do feel guilty if you ignore that. So you are constantly working. So you're laying in bed and you're like, how can I get more clients tomorrow? What should I be doing? Should I be cold calling people? Should I be going house to house telling people? So you start developing those skills, and once that happened, and once I started finding a thrill in that, and I was like, you know what? I actually like it, because what this tells me is what I put into it is a direct reflection of what I'm going to get back.
Wow.
And once I figured that out, I was hooked. This is it. From now on, I mean, I'll work for strategic purpose for other people, but business and entrepreneurship is the way I want to go, because I can work. I can put in the hours. I have no problem.
Right. So do you still own that business, or was that part of your transition out to the Midwest?
When we decided to move to Kansas, that was part. We were doing pretty good, and we were able to get a good offer on the company, and I did not want to stay in that business for a long.
Sure.
I think Bill Burr mentions it perfectly.
Yes.
Roofing in the middle of July at Temecula at 130 degrees is just not what you want to do.
Man, I was a tile setter out in Palm Springs for a long time, all those Del Webb developments, and there were days where we couldn't grout the floors because it was 110 degreers, man.
Too hot.
It dry as we were setting it. So yeah, it is something.
Yep.
It's something, man.
So I'm glad I left that. But then the move happened very quickly. One day we were sitting down. Corey was always a worker. She worked. She worked for like 6 studios. She's an acro teacher. She's a yoga teacher, bar teacher, Pilates teacher. And again, once I got hooked into the entrepreneurship mindset, and I was like, you're working for so many people and you're making them very successful because you're really good. Like, what would give us an opportunity to make this all ours? Like, your skills just go into your own business. And we knew California wasn't the right place to go. 1, it's extremely expensive. 2, it's extremely saturated. And then we had our daughter, and we had to think about a family life. So we basically picked 5 spots on the map, just randomly picked 5. You want to know what was the biggest reason that I moved here? It was the 10-year contract Patrick Mahomes signed. So I kind of looked at patterns of how City does. So
Are you serious, bro?
I promise. I promise. I don't think I've mentioned this to anybody, but that was like the main deciding factor that I was like, I want to check out Kansas because I don't know if you remember in the 90s, Chicago, Michael Jordan.
I do.
That dynasty in Chicago just went out of control. The development was insane.
Wow.
So I was
the first time that like I connected that dot there. I mean, because we've seen like with the Royals, with the World Series, and then now we have a dynasty for football.
Yep.
We're living in it, so it's easy to see that. But the fact that you recognize those patterns in other places.
So I knew. I mean, you can see Kansas City Chiefs watching them play. You knew there were going to be a dynasty. I knew there were going to be a dynasty in 2020, and I was like, you know what? If we pick up and move there, I promise you, everything we're going to invest in is going to be unbelievable growth. And so basically, what we did was we visited all this. We visited a bunch of places in Texas. Utah was on the board, Iowa was on the board, but then when we came here and people were just welcoming. Oh my goodness.
Buddy, I hear you.
I mean, I'm sure you felt that, right?
Well, yeah, everybody that lives in California develops what I call the California edge. And even when I've flown back out there, it's like the Terminator, like the augmented reality. It's like all of a sudden I drive faster, like I'm in more of a hurry because that's what it takes to survive and thrive in that type of environment. And everyone we've had visit here has said, people are so nice. And so.
Yeah, and the funniest thing is I got in here, I flew the first time and I rented a car and it was 5:00 and I was like, oh man, we got to drive from the airport. And I was like, wait, this is rush hour. And I'm going 70, 75. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Is it a holiday? And it's like, no, this is Kansas and we're developing. And obviously, throughout the years I've been living here, I've noticed the traffic pickup because it's growing so much.
Yeah,
it's growing so much.
It is.
So we loved the place, and we went back, and we were like, we're going to move. And we told our parents. They weren't excited because obviously the grandkids are moving away. I mean, my daughter's coming with me, so that was kind of tough. But it was COVID time, and we put the house on the market. And first day we got an offer way above asking. And now we were in a rush to find a place here. We looked at somewhat like 52 houses, man, and we couldn't find any. And we found our dream house online. We bought it online. We didn't even look at it.
So you were one of the folks that was like sight unseen, like, yeah, we'll do it.
We paid over asking.
Sure.
I told them a little bit about my background and what I was trying to do, and they were nice enough. And it was, I mean, there's got to be somebody up there just watching us over. It turned out to be perfect.
So awesome, man. So did you start Beastified up like after getting here, or was that already something you were doing?
No. So one thing that I really, really, really noticed is you got to understand the demographics before you start a business. So it was because when I started Soft Wash, we just took it over and we didn't know where. So I was taking a lot of jobs in Temecula. Temecula is more east from the coast, so. For the listeners, it's way hotter. So I'm taking those jobs, and I'm like, why am I doing those jobs? I should go to the most coastal, more like Carlsbad, Encinitas, which is coastal area, to where the demographics are a little bit more wealthier, and it's a nice breeze on the job. So those things mattered, and demographic mattered, and understanding where to settle, where to start the business really mattered. And I got to tell you, networking matters. Who you know matters so much here. We had no idea. I have a cousin here, and I had my business partner at the time move with me from California. That's all I knew.
Right.
Luckily, I got in with the corporate gym. I was able to get a manager position at the corporate gym, and I worked there for about a year, and I thrived. I thrived there. I killed it there, and so I got to meet a lot of people, and then my business partner from SoCal Soft Wash from California who moved here, he was just kind of hanging out. He's a smart kid. He did well in the stocks during all the all the COVID stock frenzy that was happening.
Yeah.
So he was kind of hanging out here looking at opportunity. Then he was like, hey, I want to start a business. I want to start a smoke shop. And I was like, a smoke shop? We both don't smoke. We're very healthy into fitness. And I was like, why? It's like, oh, it's like the thing to go. I was like, why not? Like, you're getting into something like SoCal Soft Wash where we are not expert at it. We're just going to buy a business that we don't know anything about, and we're just going to have to learn. It's like, what's something that we know? We know the fitness industry. So let's start a supplement company. And that's where Beastified came about. And then, and we just, like, every time we decided something, we just try not to be like, okay, let's sit on it. Let's think about it. We were like, okay, good idea. Let's go. That day we got the LLC done. Within a week, we got the place nailed down in Metcalf. And on that, while we were doing that, we found another place. So my wife's like, I want this for my yoga studio. And I was like, okay, all right. 2 businesses. All right. We'll go. And so basically I quit my job and we started Beastified. And that's how Beastified started. And once Beastified started, obviously I started my bodybuilding career because I was always extremely fit. And
I was going to ask, fitness was always important to you.
Yeah, so why not take it? Why not take it to the highest level? If I'm already doing it, might as well. Yeah, and it was good for the business as well because it helped me promote what I'm preaching, basically. Yeah. So
in our previous conversations, we kind of gathered that like the social media stuff doesn't come naturally, and like you've had to get into that space. And I've had some folks on the show like Phil and Heather, and they've talked about the importance of the social media stuff, and that was one of my biggest hurdles, man, with this. And like, I have to face my cringe all the time. Like, I'm still going, on these podcasts. And like, I listened to one of my 5 minutes to learn segments and I was like going, I want to say that differently. And like, so it's awkward, but it's something that I've been doing because I know if people don't know me, they can't flow me kind of thing. And for you being a bodybuilder, like, and, creating a fitness opportunity, a place for people to come and improve themselves. Like, what's that journey been like on social media?
What's that journey been like? Yeah. It's still in process. It's right. A work in progress. I want to say I'll give myself a D- right now because it was way down in the F. But right. So. Social media is something that doesn't come natural to me because I was all in the military. You're not posting about anything. You're just all my jobs. It was just labor and so labor based. So I never had to use social media. Even with SoCal Soft Wash, we didn't use a lot of social media, which we should have. But it's exactly what you say. It's just me and my personal judgment towards myself. Oh, hey, do I sound good? Do I look good? It's because I'm comparing myself to these 3 million, 20 million, 50 million follower people, and I'm comparing myself to that. And that's almost, I'm at fault with that because I want to be perfect at everything I do. So it's just so you always compare it. So you don't, if you want to be a good basketball player, I'm comparing myself to LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. I'm not comparing myself to the guy that's 6th on the bench, 7th on the bench, 8th, but they're still in the NBA doing well, Sure. They did something right there. So it's not the way I approached it. I always compare myself to the best. So I'm like looking at this, they got the edits going, which I have no idea how to edit.
Oh, the super cuts and like, oh my God, dude, I know.
And then the only thing that gave me a relief is actually competing. And then I was like, wait a minute, all these, they don't look better than me. They just know how to present themselves better than me or whatever the case may be. So that's what kind of got me started. But then again, I'm my own worst critic, and it kind of, I'm like, okay, my body's not perfect. I'll post when it's perfect. And when it is there, and I'm like, I'm too busy trying to perfect it even more. So I don't have time for social media. And I got to tell you, including my parents, my friends, everybody's like, I'm South Indian. There's not a lot of big South Indian guys, so I want to say I'm one of a kind when it comes to that. And they're like, dude, like, we love your body. Like, can you tell us more? And so I'm gonna get better at it once this gym gets going, and I want to have mic'd up nights. Just kind of keep it raw.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool, man. Yeah. And that's what I've learned too. My wife, the reason why we take pictures now in the next room was because I was evaluating engagement on the podcast, and she's like, people follow your podcast because of who you bring on, and you and what you're doing. You have to show them more of that. And so I was like, all right, well, next time. And I felt bad for like the first few guests because we didn't do the selfies. Like even when we were doing these interviews in my kitchen, man, like I'd set my kitchen up, but I was like, if I make it a part of what I'm already doing, so like you miking up in the gym, bro, that is just genius. I love it, dude. Like, and that's the thing, because people, like, I know, and here's the thing about your social media too, what you had out there was enough to tell me, because I went down the rabbit hole. I'm like, this guy's a veteran. This guy cares about his physique. I saw the MA in clinical counseling, and I was like, whoa. And then he loves his family. You know what I mean? And so it's like, that's what I think as an entrepreneur, because the marketing stuff and the social stuff, man, it's a lot of work, man. And I know too about that comparison thing. But incorporating it into what you're already doing, if you create the reflex to say, you know what, I'm having this really cool meeting with this business partner right now. Here, we're going to share that, or whatever. Or here's how the progress on the gym is going. We're going to share that. When you invite people into that stuff, it's like they get to see that too. Yeah,
that's it's easier said than done, and
I know, man. I know.
It always sometimes. So the reason why, like I said about mic'd up nights, is because I thought about why. I really sat down for a while, and I was like, why is it that I have a problem posting things? And I was like, sometimes when it's scripted, I don't feel original. Like I love doing podcasts because this is just. I didn't prep for anything. It's just we're just having conversation.
This is what I love about it too, man.
And whatever's on my head and whatever I really think, I try to not curse too much and just bring it out. Usually, if this is not being recorded, I would have dropped a few bombs, but yeah,
probably me too.
So it came. It's natural. So that's why I love doing it. So it's like, what's something natural that I can do? It's like, hey, listen, I work out every day for the past 13 years. I haven't missed a workout. So why not?
13 years you haven't missed a workout?
I don't think so. Yeah,
bro, that's awesome.
So
that's amazing.
So why not just have a camera and a mic and just have people experience what it's like to like work out on a daily basis, because every day it's just that's my therapy, and it's one thing that I don't compromise. It's intense every day, so it's like, hey, yeah, let me share that. That's original for me.
Yeah,
I don't have to be like, oh wow, hey, yes, set the lighting and don't say this, don't say that. It's like, no, this is whatever's gonna come out, that's what you're gonna get. So that's where I thought of stuff like that. I think that's where I need to get better at being like, hey, I do this every day, let's record it. I cook every day, let's record it one day. Yeah. Something like that. And I need to get better about it. But obviously right now I have priorities. Trying to get this gym open is my priority. So yeah.
Speaking of which, like, when are you expecting to break ground on that?
So
maybe you can tell for people who want to know what it's like to open up like a physical space.
You want to know what it's like opening up on a physical space? I can tell you. I negotiated the space last year at this time. Yeah. March of 2023. I signed the lease May of 2023. I was supposed to get the space July of 2023, and I was supposed to open September 2023. Construction is still going on.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. What's the root cause of that? Like, have you figured out?
Yeah, it's the problem. One, it has to do with how it's structured, because the build out is being built by the owner, because the building is a Pinnacle building. I don't know if you guys know Incredible. So it used to be a big bowling alley owned by Danny Jackson back in the day. Laser tag, mini golf, like a Pinnacle building here in Overland Park, South Overland Park, over at 151st. So that place was closed down 8 years ago, and Dr. Sabarwal took over the place, and he planned on having a hospital open, and it did not happen because of the HOA and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Right.
So it's been closed for 8 years, and he finally decided to part with the idea of a hospital and start bringing businesses in. And we had a conversation. We were like, let's go. So he was in charge of constructing the build out for me. Plumbing, bathrooms, these are basic things that needs to be provided. So it's tough. If it was me, yes, I would have been done in September, but it's not me doing the construction.
Right.
So it's somebody else. And so it's at their time. And,
Right.
I kind of was, had a conversation. It's like, why is it taking 9 months for you to do a 4-week job? Like, what's going on? And I kind of sat down and I kind of looked at it from his perspective. He's a wealthy guy. He owns hospitals. He owns a bunch of different property. For him, this is a tiny project.
Sure.
So for me, it's my dream.
Yeah.
So that's why it's taken long. And matter of fact, after this podcast, I have probably one of the most important meeting with the city to see if I can get the permit to open here within the next month or two. I mean, hopefully within the next month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's something too. We'll be ready to share that. And everybody who kind of like comes on the show, like I consider you part of the KCBC tribe. And so you'll probably notice like I'm sharing updates from guests like from back in the day, like when we first started it. And so that's one of those things. We'll keep listeners updated on that. And then, so is it going to be like a subscription model where, you sign up and then you can use the gym and I'm assuming you'll have classes, things like that. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, you're partially correct. We don't have classes. Okay. I want to bring a different vibe here.
Yeah.
So for me, I told you I always wanted to combine a holistic approach to fitness, mentally, physically, spiritually. So I kind of want to bring a space where you can kind of let yourself out, like, go and just be you, and then just be a savage, kind of a beast. Hence the term beastified. It's coined because when satisfaction meets your inner beast, basically you're beastified. So it's the best version of yourself. So it's a version that you don't necessarily have to portray 24/7. But it is within you. And you bring it out when you're in my place. That's what it's for. So let everything out at my place, leave nothing behind, and then just go home and be that person you can be. So that's the space I want to create. So for that, I strictly just went with a strength training facility. Not. Okay. I don't have locker rooms. I have lockers, but I have individual bathrooms because I do feel like you're coming to the gym, don't spend time in the locker room. Just be at the floor.
We're here to lift weights and be savages.
Yeah. So I don't, and even when the contractor was like, "Oh, where does the TV mount needs to go?" Because I like watching TV. I was like, "Well, I guess you're not coming to my gym. There's no TV here. I'm sorry. If you're coming here, you're not watching TV. I'll have a projector screen going if the Chiefs are playing. If there's something important going, Olympia going, whatever the case may be going, I'll play that. But this is not you're not coming to watch soap opera at my place and do cardio. I mean, you can bring your equipment, iPad, whatever, to watch all this stuff. We don't have a lot of cardio equipments. We have about 25 pieces, but what we do have is machines. I have dumbbells from 5 to 200 pounds.
Okay.
Like equipment based. I have so many equipments. So it's one of those gyms where you're going there to get a lift. So,
dude, I love that
and
so much.
Yeah. And to a subscription model, it's always going to be a month-to-month basis just because, I have like 7 different gym memberships just because when I travel, I want to have access to a gym.
That makes sense.
So I want to make it easy for people to just have a monthly subscription, and it's going to be at a very affordable rate. I want to attract young kids who are very serious about being an athlete or being a bodybuilder or whatever the case may be, so they have access to the gym. One thing that I regret that I don't have is a daycare. I really wish I had room for a daycare, but I do not have that right now. I do not have group classes. It's just, you just pay, come in, work out. We do have top of the line personal trainers there, all competitors. So people who have been there on both sides of the spectrum, extreme fitness to extreme bulk to extreme cut, so they understand how to get your fitness goal into fruition and basically achieve the goals.
So where are these folks now? Because you're help me understand what you're operating right now.
So they're all competitors, so they're all prepping for their shows.
Got it.
They do work. Matter of fact, none of them. They all work as independent trainers, or they're not training, or they're not working.
Oh, got it. Right.
So I hand selected them because they have the same mindset, and they're good. Because for me, the best interview for a trainer is just looking at a man having self-awareness. If you're doing what you're preaching, it's a good sign that you're gonna be good. Sometimes it won't translate. Sometimes people doesn't know how to translate to other people. That's where my leadership comes in.
The teaching, right? Yeah. Because you can be really good at something, but you may need to develop in the area of communicating how somebody does it for the first time.
Yeah, and that was never and that was never a concern for me, because I feel like I can provide that for people and show that, hey, this is how you transfer your knowledge in a way they can understand. By they, I mean it's different with every single person. This person might need a good military style, let's go kind of deal, or the other person might just need to sit down and just help them visualize what their body looks like in 6 months, and keep reminding them, whatever the case may be, is that motivates them is what needs to be said going forward. So that's what we're trying to build.
Man, so I wanted to ask you too about networking. How have you found these folks? Because I think one of the biggest concerns for people when they have reservations for moving, because you get that sometimes. People say, gosh, I wish I could do that, but I can't, because they can't visualize setting up in a new scene or setting. So how have you been networking since you got here? What's been helpful for to find your people, right? Like people that care about having a place where you can go and let your inner beast out, right? Yeah. So how do you do that, or who's been helpful to you?
There's a few ways. I can't tell you what's the accurate way. I can tell you my way. My way was obviously working at a corporate gym. I talked to a lot of people. Right. I think the best way I networked is being out on the floor, leading by example. So when I'm at the gym, I make sure I'm the beast. I'm the beast, and people know, whoa, oh wow, this guy is every day. He's got the same mentality. He's going at it. So obviously, when you start building a reputation, okay, he's a hard charger, he's consistent, he's disciplined, people tend to kind of come to you, ask questions, and for me, that's the ultimate compliment, because they see the work that I'm putting in and they respect it. And that's the ultimate sign. Them just letting me know, hey, bro, you're killing it. I want what you're on. And so that was a great way of networking. I must have met close to 500 people like that.
That's so cool, man.
Just being in different gyms, just doing that. And then stuff like this, being part of your tribe, KCBC tribe, and actually following up with it, and just sitting down. It doesn't have to be that's the greatest thing about being an entrepreneur and networking. It doesn't have to be the same industry. I don't have to find another gym goer. I could find somebody like you who's doing this podcast. Essentially, you had hurdles that you had to come over. We talked about, the first podcast. I've noticed my podcast, even this one, all that stuff like that, right? Right? You want the listeners you want it to be free flowing, so it's easy to listen. So those are things you need to work for, and that requires discipline and consistency and that mindset and that story that's the networking that I look for, because. To be honest, Michael, everybody goes through slumps. Even when you're doing great, you go through slumps, because things don't work the way you want to. It's always an audible. You always have to call an audible.
You've mentioned that too, and I feel like that's a good point to ask you as well, because you're out there, you're the beast. what do you do when you don't feel like the beast? What do you do? Who do you look up to? Who do you like? So you're a centrifugal force in people's lives. Like, I can tell, like, you're disciplined, man. You live it. Like, not missing a workout in the last 13 years. The thing is, when you say that, I can look at you and I go, yeah, that's a guy who hasn't missed a workout in the last 13 years. So how do you keep going, man? Like, you know, when I think of like people who have influenced me in my life, like I look at, you know, the Jocko Willinks and the Tim Ferrisses and, you know, Brendan Brazier, who is a whole food, plant-based triathlete guy. Like, that was the first time I was like, how did he do that? You know? And so like, who do you look to? And I guess I just asked you two questions, you know, what do you do when you're not feeling it? And then, you know, who are your mentors and how have you been inspired?
So I have a trick. Do something called, so there's two things. My first trick is I talk the talk. I talk shit. Like, if I'm in there, I am saying stuff that's gonna piss you off. I am pushing you to the limit where my friends have, lack of better terms, this motherfucker. Are you serious? The audacity on him to call me out, doing all that. So I talk shit. So when I truly see myself as leading some of these guys, or want to be seen that way, when you talk the shit, you gotta walk it all the time. So when you're on that day where you don't have that motivation, that's when discipline kicks in, and you think about the times where you're like, hey, man, remember I told all these boys, like, hey, you put
yourself on the hook for it.
Yeah, you better hold yourself accountable. So man. That's what gets me going. That's not true. I have missed a workout in 13 years, which was last week. I had like this infection on my lung, and I lost 31 pounds actually.
Oh wow!
Which is quite devastating because I'm trying to gain weight and I'm bulking for my competition, But, you know, I got back up and I'm like, you know, and the people who you talk shit to, they talk shit back. They're like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like,
they stuck their finger in the wound, right?
Yeah. And for me, that's like you calling me out to battle. And, you know, that's when the military discipline comes in, where you're like, you don't have an option, because if you don't show up, the guy to the left or the right is going to suffer. And if I'm the glue to a lot of people, I gotta be there. So that. And the second thing, Michael, I'll tell you, this is probably one of the best things my wife has done for me, right? So one time, you know, during, you know, you have slump workouts, you have it depends on the season sometimes. I remember coming home and my wife was like, how's your workout? And I was like, it was okay. 2 days later, how's your workout? It was okay. So my wife sat me down and I was like, listen, sweetheart, so we're business owner. We don't have time. We have we have a young daughter. Whatever time we have, we try to spend with her. So we are sacrificing 3 hours out of the day so you can go to the gym. I do not want you to come back here and tell me it was okay while we sacrifice that 3 hours for you. So for me, that got me emotional. I was like, wow, you gave up. We're so busy and you still managed 3 hours for me to be by myself and do what I do in the gym every day. And here I am coming back saying it was okay. So from that day onwards, I wanted to make sure that I didn't come back home and told her like it was okay. She gave me that opportunity, and it's not that she gave me that opportunity. She's sacrificing that for me. And Michael, I'll tell you, I cried that day. I was like, wow.
You got me going right now, bro.
Yeah. So I have the most ultimate support system. I have a wife who moved here to Kansas from California. She's never known anything outside of California.
I saw her post one day when she was driving out in the snow. She shared it on the Sweat Vault website. You know, it's just like, yeah, that reminded me. You know, because it's been 9 years for us. But yeah, it's an adjustment.
Yeah,
it's an adjustment. So she her faith.
And the fact that I know, wow, like she believes in me, that's why she gives up all this time for me to do this. It's kind of a one man sport, you know. You have to sacrifice a lot for me to be
I think that's your phone, by the way. Sorry.
And
you have to sacrifice. Right.
Yeah. So after that, combination of holding myself accountable and then making sure I use the best of the time presented to me. Again, I've been on both sides of the spectrum in life where, you know, in the military, life or death can happen right away. In an instance to having all the time in the world, I was like, hey, I'm not going to waste it. I'm never going to waste it because it's a luxury. I'm from a third world country. It's a luxury to have all of this, having a gym, having food all the time, all that, and just count my blessing and actually make the best out of it. I think that is the reason why I haven't lost faith in anything. I mean, for example, 9 months, it's delayed 9 months, you know, so it's right. 9 months of no revenue, 9 months of paying on things that I wasn't expecting to pay on things.
Right.
Financially, we came here looking pretty good from the savings side to now spending all of it and being patient. And that's why I'm not worried, because I'm not going to waste my time when the opportunity does come. So, there you go. That's why.
Man, sometimes I have moments on the podcast where I'm like, what do I say after that? But what was getting me really emotional as you were talking about the time when Corey sat you down, as you were saying that, I think part of the reason why I get emotional, why I know that's going to hit our listeners like a 10-ton hammer, at least some of them, is because I started thinking, where am I wasting my time? Or where am I not being respectful of the time that people are sacrificing to help me keep this thing going?
That's a good way to put it. It's almost it's not a privilege. It's like showing respect to the opportunity given.
I mean, when you said too, like owning the other 60% of a business, like when you're an employee or, you know, you have hours, you're on the 40%, but owning that, it's like, there's obviously, you know, cost of doing business and all that stuff, but there's an existential cost too of like your mental capacity and how much sleep you're getting. And I'm curious to ask you about that too, like, you know, about your rhythms in your own life. You know, I know you spend at least 3 hours a day in the gym, yep. Right? Because you're working on building muscle. You got to tear a lot of muscle to make it bigger. What other rhythms do you have to kind of keep your day on track? And what do you do to keep yourself?
So I think I'll go to when everything was flowing really good, because that's a good example to give. Yeah. Because it doesn't always happen that way. But just being structured is very important when you're a business owner with multiple other external factors and internal factors going around you. What I mean by that is my family, we have multiple business. We have a daughter. So we have that family aspect. We have to worry about the financial aspect. We have to make sure the mortgage is paid off, bills are paid off, the business aspect. We have to worry about marketing. We have to worry about personal health, which is the industry I'm in, because I gotta have this look to attract clients.
Sure.
So when you have so many things that has to happen on a daily basis, you have to have a structure. So I talked about this in another podcast. By no means am I telling people like, oh, this is the way to do it. This is the way that I'm doing it, and this is the way that works for me. I try to wake up. I try to have the same routine every day. I have my meals planned out already. Like you can see, I have my lunchbox with me. I have all my meals there. I have my own drinks, because I only drink 0-calorie drinks or water or whatever the case may be. And I don't want to be that guy that goes somewhere and being like, oh, that's what I want. It's like, it's not that I'm demanding. It's just, that's that's what I'm used to, and that's all I want to put in my body. And then you have to plan every day. From I have podcast here. Right after that, I have to eat. Then I have to go to the city, talk about the permits. Then I go back into training. Then I train my clients, and then I have to go home. When I go home, I have to do this. The reason why you need to do that is because you get to compartmentalize everything you're doing. So when I'm doing the podcast, I'm not sitting here worrying about what's going to happen with the city 2 hours later. I'm not worrying about what I should be doing with my client. I'm not worrying about what I should be doing. It's very important when you have a family, because you have to be present with that daughter, because she used to fit inside the size of my palm. Now she's up to my stomach, and that goes fast, and you're not getting that back. So you have to have it separated, and you have to be present and available to the task you're doing. And for me, that's the only way I'll be guilt-free going to bed. Otherwise, I'll be so guilty. I can't believe I didn't play with her. I gave her an iPad and I just did my stuff, and I can't do that. And it reflects. My daughter's the most loving daughter I know. When she sees us, she's always cuddling, want to be with us, want to be present, want to do things with us.
Yeah, man.
And it's important we do that, and make very, very positive use of our time that we have been given. And mind you, caveat to that, you got to have time for yourself as well.
I was just gonna, brother. As we've been talking, it's like you'll mention that. I'm like on the same train of thought with you. But how do you make time for yourself?
Right.
And what do you do? What are your hobbies? Like, yeah.
Right now, nothing. Right now, this is fun for me. This is what I need to get done, because I'm not short-sighted. For me, this is the way I'm thinking about life, and this is the way me and Corey has talked about it. Hey, let's sacrifice what the norm is. People going on vacation. We haven't even gone on our honeymoon yet. It's because we started the business and all that stuff. Let's while we have health, youth, all that on our side, let's not sacrifice one important thing. That's family. Let's not sacrifice that. Everything else, let's sacrifice right now. For example, hobbies. I would love to be in the beach. I would love to go. In my 20s, I was there almost every other day. But let's sacrifice that now. So in a couple of years, we can make it all happen without worrying about anything. And that's the approach. It might not be the right approach for a lot of people. I've had friends saying, hey, don't do that. Maybe go hard 10 months and take it easy 2 months. But for me, it's an incomplete task. I got to finish the task. Let me finish this task, and then we'll go forward. But there's a bad side to that. If you get addicted to this, you just want more and more and more, and then you try to grow, which is what we're doing. But I do believe life will tell you when you need to be like, okay, we've finished this task. Let's enjoy life. And I do feel like that's coming for us soon. But we just gotta. We're in that phase of life where we need to get going.
Man, I appreciate that, hearing that too, because, when you might have mentioned seasons, or maybe you mentioned it out in the lobby, but there's modes. Like there's modes of doing this, and we know what your mode is when you're in the gym. It's beast mode, right?
Yeah.
That sounds too cheesy or cliche, but I appreciate that too, about making time for your family too, because I feel like that's one of the first things to go out the window for a lot of people. Prioritizing your family is that is the thing, like that. It's important you keep in your life and you keep front and center. Yeah,
it's a major driving force.
And for you, like hobbies, you're like, yeah, I'll do hobbies later. I'll go to the beach later. Like I appreciate that. All that to reel it back into your routine. That kind of, I love, you've got your lunchbox. So it's like, I don't need to wonder if there's enough protein in what I'm going to eat for lunch.
Yeah, no. Yeah. As far as you're right, when it comes to, for me, my driving factor is my family. That's the purpose. All of this is just for me and my family to have that. I want my daughter to see, if you're consistent and disciplined and you stick to it and you work really hard, and things can happen. Things can happen. You don't have to fall into sometimes what we call a society norm, or again, a 9 to 5 or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's a 24-hour job now, but eventually it will all become, once it becomes successful, then you get to choose your, or just, when people say, oh, hey, I'm going to start a business. I want to choose when I work. I want to have my own hours. I don't want to have a boss, whatever the case may be. That is the statement you make when you're successful. I'm telling you, that's like the tip of the iceberg. All the stuff underneath, man, that is, you gotta work. You got to work to get there. So I understand I'm at that working stage right now, but one thing I'm not willing to compromise is the attachment of my family. I don't have to have a steak dinner night. I don't have to have a date night outside of the house. We can make anything happen with what we have. It doesn't have to be in Cancun. It doesn't have to be. We just take what you have right now and just make the best out of it. Be present. And when you're hustling and when you're a business owner, sometimes that's what you have to do. That's just what you have to do. And I feel like that's why I'm able to not be like, oh man, this is taking forever. I don't know if I'm going to make it. No, I'm okay. I'm happy elsewhere. Happiness is being fed to me by being present in my family life, in my business life, my personal health life. Everything is just, it's guilt free. So.
At one point too, when I had originally asked you about what routines do you have, or how do you manage everything? And you got to the point where you said something about spending time with your daughter. Like, I don't want to go to bed with guilt. Like, I should have spent more time with her. And then it was funny in my mind. It was like, well, he just answered the sleep question. When your head hits the pillow, it's like you're putting it all out there in your day. So you don't have anything else to wrestle with by the time. I mean, that's an assumption I'm making, but
most of the nights.
I'm getting a rosy colored picture of how you go to sleep, man.
but again, when you have your own business, you're always thinking about how to get one up on anything you're doing. So sometimes your mind does go, but sometimes you're just so satisfied and tired with your day. You're like, okay, I'm just going to get a peaceful 8 real quick, wake up and do it all over again.
What I feel like I was doing subconsciously there too, is I was seeing, as you talked about your day, I'm like, whoa, Sid cracked the code. He's figured it out, I'm
figuring it out.
And it's cool. It's like to remind me too, like, that's just it's like an ever-present thing, like running your own ship. You're always going to have those things trying to invade and having responses. And I love how you have the trick too, like, putting yourself on the hook around your gym buddies, like talking crap to them, and it's like, oh yeah, now I've got to step up. And you have these little life hacks that you use
that works for me.
Yeah. And that's going to resonate with other people too. As we've kind of talked about, how your journey in business, kind of what's next. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to make sure we talked about on this cast?
I can talk about how I got into the military, which is kind of a cool story. I mean, not a cool story. It's just kind of a funny story. I think I was in college. I was going to school for physical therapy. And I was not having college going. So I was like, I worked a lot. I worked even at a young age. I worked a lot. So I went to I went to the recruiting station and not knowing how the military worked. And I was like, hey, man, like, you guys have jobs available, like on the weekend or something, like a Saturday, Sunday. I'll come in, I'll help you out, organize paper, clean up, whatever you need to do. I mean, just tell me what you guys pay. And he's like, and the guy was good. He was like, oh, yeah, we have jobs available. It's like, oh, what are you trying to be, physical therapist? Oh, why don't you just go to physical therapy school with us and we'll pay for it? And I was like, wait, what? Okay. All right, sign me up. And that's how I joined the military, kind of totally first totally just looking for a temporary job just to make sure I don't have any free time. And then and got into the military, and it was a tough process because my parents would not let me do it because I was already in college, and they did not want me to do it. But I got to tell you, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. The United States Navy probably changed my life forever, and I am forever thankful. And they still till today take care of me. More so in a structured way. They taught me discipline, taught me consistency, taught me what's the value of life and how important it is not to take anything for granted. Because what I did for the military, I was a corpsman for the Marine Corps units. So people's life really depended on me and what I did. And you know, I've been to combat, and
so as a corpsman, you're talking about on the medical end, like how did you serve the Marines?
So my deployment was with the infantry unit. So
got it.
Basically, I'm attached to them. So you technically do what they do at the same time. If somebody's hurt on the field,
right,
in combat, you're taking care of them and also trying to make sure the mission's accomplished. So not going too much into details there, but sure. But it's a different spectrum of life of what I live right now. You know, I lived in mud huts and you know, for the first time I saw diversity there. I was with somebody from Texas, Kansas, Florida, New York, California, all over the place. And I mean, end of the day, like that brotherly love, and I got to witness so much in there, diversity, especially diversity in the sense where there's a lot of stigma that I had when I came here. It's like, hey, I'm this brown guy trying to make it, and I felt none of that in the military. I just felt nothing but love. And the guys that I was with, I mean, I still talk to them. We're still like brothers. And I think that just opened my eyes to, I want to say the world is worth it. And it was just, I don't know, I'm at a loss of word here, and kind of getting emotional with that. But
yeah, brother,
it definitely made this life worth it for sure. Just experiencing the military, and when I got out, and still today, that's why I will never waste my time, and I'll always want to be a valuable asset to this country, and I always strive for that, and hence why I'm trying to be a successful business and give back to the community.
Man, that's a great note to close up this episode with, this interview. Just being an asset, man. And I can tell that you're an asset to everybody in your life, man. Like I'm so blown away that I got to have this conversation with you, and just to know you, man. It's such an honor. What's the best way people can stay updated or up to date with you and progress on the gym? Where can we follow? Obviously, I'll be your ally on the podcast front, like saying, hey, remember Sid? Here's the gym, stuff like that. But how can people find you and stay up to date?
The best way would be Beastified Gym on Instagram.
Okay.
It's the only social media that I have, and there's one post. But that's because things are developing. I'll have more posts going on as we finish the build out. So the construction's done there. As soon as I'm done with hopefully a good meeting with the city today, I'll be able to post more and information. So the pre-sale for the gym, all that stuff will be released on Beastified Gym Instagram.
Awesome.
And then we'll get our website up once I get the go-ahead from the city.
Man, that's so cool. Sid, thank you so much for joining the show. Everybody go out, support Sid. Make sure if you like what we're doing here on the podcast, give us a subscription, ratings, reviews. All that stuff helps us. And most importantly, for these interviews, it helps bring awareness to our guests. And again, that's part of my why and why I started this. So thanks everybody for listening. Take care.